In my video today, I'm going to be focusing on the relationship between the humanities and the sciences and how that has changed over time. While the two started out somewhat joined in a time when much of science was church-sanctioned, over the course of the Enlightenment, the two disciplines went through a split that has persisted up until even today. Only recently have the two begun to reunite and work together to create a discourse again. To visualize this, I figured I'd stick with spinstery tradition and use what I had on hand, knitting needles. To begin, and to give some background, most of what we talked about this semester stemmed from an initial understanding of epistemology. Foucault talks about the relationship between truth and knowledge, and the different types of power in terms of constructing knowledge. There's state or repressive power, and there's discourse or productive power. Discourse is obviously the preferable mode of power, and the humanities and sciences have historically had a hand in and have been in conflict over who creates the discourse that governs what is accepted in society. There has been a trend in epistemology more recently towards a more interdisciplinary approach. Rorty is one author who suggests that the way we think about our ideas needs to be changed. He says it should be more interdisciplinary, drawing from both the humanities and the sciences, rather than making distinctions between them. Rorty was a proponent of using unforced agreement to put the humanities and the sciences on the same path. However, despite what Rorty might say, the school of thought that began largely during the Enlightenment that put the humanities and the sciences at conflict with one another has still been in place somewhat recently. For instance, take moral philosophy. Each side is represented by a single knitting needle. Here, we have a totally humanities-based approach to the creation of morality. Sartre argues that human nature doesn't exist, but is created by how people act in reality. Morality is completely constructed by humans. On the other side, we have scientists saying that morality is inherent in our biology. Our morality is based on what is evolutionarily the most advantageous for our survival. Several readings challenge the Enlightenment divide. Appiah, Oyama, Boyd, the cultural analytics people, and Bogost being the ones I'm going to focus on now. Going back to the morality debate, Appiah argues that morals are a combination of evolutionary impulses and reasoning, so that the humanities and the sciences actually work together to create a fully formed morality. A similar argument is made by Oyama in the field of historiography. She claims that the way biologists talk about knowledge is different from what they know, and language is an influencing factor, and she lists 3 metaphors that structure our thinking about evolution. Even by using metaphor to look at evolution, Oyama combines the disciplines in order to redefine it as a change in distribution and constitution of developmental systems, as opposed to a change in gene frequencies over time. She discards the strictly scientific definition and instead incorporates a definition that is more philosophical and humanities-based. Again, the shift in the relationship of the humanities and sciences from being conflictual to having more crossover is evident in the field of textual studies, particularly in Greenberg and Boyd's works. Greenberg looks at genetics and genes in terms of signifier versus signified, a literary approach to science, and Boyd looks at all literature from an evolutionary standpoint, saying that fiction is an evolutionary adaptation for literature similar to play for children. The same ideas are evident in visual culture and the digital humanities. In the Software Studies Initiative, a team using cultural analytics uses graphs and charts, scientific methods, to track and analyze cultural trends such as in art or media, things that would generally be viewed from a humanistic lens. However, by viewing them through a more scientific lens, it is possible to see trends and changes over time, which might not be evident from a more individualistic analyzation. Lastly, the meshing of the humanities and the sciences in order to produce a better and more well-rounded discourse is evident in Bogost's work in Cultural and American Studies. Bogost talks about object-oriented ontology, which suggests that objects, knitting needles for instance, have culture just like humans do. Objects generally fall more into the realm of sciences, whereas humans and culture fall under the humanities. And so by suggesting that knitting needle culture and human culture are equal, Bogost combines the sciences and the humanities. Ultimately, the trend of the sciences and the humanities coming together from their previous position of being separate and conflicting is helpful across all of these disciplines. We're able to take a humanistic viewpoint and a scientific viewpoint and allow them to work together to create a discourse. Like knitting needles are used together to create something that you're knitting, such as a scarf. And the two disciplines are used to create a discourse that's more well-rounded than if they were doing it separately. Ultimately, it allows for a greater understanding of various topics and creates a multitude of viewpoints through which to gain and understand information, which is in the end, as Haraway would no doubt agree, the best way to find any sort of objective knowledge.